Coming up on this week's episode of CEO Yourself.
You have to have, I guess, a bit of an appetite for convincing or persuading, and I guess storytelling again comes in there because we had to go and convince people of those things I just mentioned, as well as this is going to be the next biggest thing. So it's so worth you stopping your production to put our product down. So the persuasion and the belief, I think personal passion around purpose, I couldn't have done this without that.
Olivia Ferdi is the co-founder of the ultra-successful brand Trip Drinks. Today on CEO Yourself, we deep dive her CEO superpower, storytelling. Olivia, welcome to CEO Yourself.
Thank you for having me.
It's such an honor to have you here because you are someone I've long admired in business.
Oh, so sweet.
And I'm so in awe of everything you've achieved with Trip Drinks, which is not just drinks.
No.
You're so much more.
Yeah, I think Trip is very much it came out of COVID and I think was really with the cultural zeitgeist of kind of well-being more broadly. I think drinks or beverage, as we call it at ours, is such an amazing way to connect with people. But yeah, we've got other supplements and other products to kind of help you on that journey. You might meet us through a drink, enjoy it, have a great time, and then learn a bit more about the other range. And we love that. We don't want to just be a one moment product brand, but really bring you into our world, storytelling, and kind of help you learn more about different ways that you can sort of help yourself feel better.
It's hard not to find Trip Drinks these days because you're in 25,000 stores.
Yeah.
Is that just in the UK or?
It's a mix. So it's mainly UK. We started here in London and have since expanded into the West Coast of the US. So California, a handful of other states, New York, Florida, and a few more. And France is another of our big retail footprints, but the UK is still sort of home territory. There's so much to go after. So our team's mainly based here working on that.
And what is the plan? Global takeover?
Of course, has to be. I mean, when you think about the genesis of the brand and the fact that the mission is to help millions of people find moments of calm in the everyday chaos. And we use the word everyday chaos because every day is an experience that we all have and it's different for you and I. And it might look different today as it might look on a weekend or a different weeknight. So for us, being able to connect with people in that way is so important. And I think there's no one out there that unfortunately isn't stressed or feeling overwhelmed at some point in their day or their week. So for us, show me someone that couldn't need a product like this. And yeah, that's the mission, to try and get out there and meet as many of these people as possible and give them something to help them.
So tell me, why CBD? You mentioned that you launched in lockdown, COVID.
Yeah.
Why CBD? Because you were a lawyer.
Completely unexpected, and I'd love to get your thoughts on your journey of entrepreneurship, but for me it was never part of the plan. It was all down to a personal experience. So Daniel and I, my husband and co-founder, we got married in 2018, and weeks before we were due to get married, he had an accident playing football, tore his ACL, had to have knee surgery, was lying on the sofa, braces, metal rods, all of it, and we thought we'd have to cancel the wedding. We were getting married in Florence 7 weeks later. I was freaking out, going to dress fittings, nudging him and saying, I'm pretty sure we should get your tux now. And he's like, how am I going to get a tux fitted around this thing? We were desperate to try and find a way to help him recover. And his brother, who was in the US, was like, loads of people are talking about this thing called CBD. I don't know what it is, but loads of athletes are taking it. Why don't you give it a go? And on taking it on the injury itself and orally, he had this insane recovery. I actually have the video. I don't know if I've shown it to you. I'll have to show it to you after. Dancing all weekend long, off crutches. There's a video where he's Irish Lebanese, so it was a very lively wedding in Italy. I'm on his shoulders, partying 3 days in Florence. It was insane.
And this is just weeks after having been on the couch.
Yeah, and we'd never heard of it. We were, as you mentioned, I was a lawyer, he was in finance. Wellness, in inverted commas, wasn't something that we were kind of, deeply interested in. And it was only after this crazy experience we got back and we were like, that was insane. All our friends and family were like, how did that happen? And we dove into researching CBD, which is from the hemp plant, learning about it. And we were reading these insane stories like Daniel's of recovery, pain relief, inflammation, everything from endometriosis to epilepsy. It was astounding. But what we learned is that most people use it as a day-to-day well-being supplement, particularly in the States where it had been available for sort of 10 years. So I started trying it every day myself. I was stressed, burnt out. I'm sure a lot of people can relate, particularly in those days pre-COVID on my long commute on the Northern Line, everyone just getting so tense and sharp elbowed. And I'd get to my desk physically hunched up. And I was finding taking the CBD drops really helped just kind of take the edge off. It's nothing extreme. It's just a slight softening. helps you kind of feel more present and kind of less conscious of all the stress or physical tension, and realized this is amazing. But all I could find was poor quality products in really random stores or having to go to dodgy websites. The product was these dark brown bottles you might have seen, CBD drops, dark brown bottles covered in green leaves, not something I could have at my desk or in my handbag or have on the go. Tasted pretty awful. And we realized so many people could benefit from something natural, healthy, something you can have every day without worrying about your health to support your kind of anxiety or stress. But why does it taste bad? Why is it really expensive? Why can't I find something with a brand that resonates with me or my friends? And it was really, like I said, expensive, and product quality was a real challenge, like navigating the messaging, the science behind it. And we realized, okay, how do we bring this to so many more people in a way that's easy to understand? I think if you show the can or the drink to anyone in any country, any age, you know what to do with a can. You flip it open, have a drink, feel refreshed. And there was this disconnect between the amazing relief that we were feeling personally from CBD and the really challenging aspect of consuming it. So we thought, we've got to do something in the space. This is a miracle ingredient. And 3 months after the wedding, we told our parents, we're going to do something in the space. You can imagine how that conversation went. And no, actually, our families were incredibly supportive somehow. And, I have no beverage experience, neither does my husband. It was pure passion driven out of this experience. And we knew we had to bring this to the mainstream. We thought this has to be available everywhere. So from quitting our jobs, about 8 months later, we launched the brand, the product, everything all together. So in conversations like this, I realized that is an insanely rapid journey. But I think that North Star of our personal experience and passion, I knew all of the pain points a customer might feel when they're thinking about, gosh, I am a bit run down, I am a bit stressed. What can I do about it? Where can I go to find this product? How do I understand the labeling? How do I know what to take? Why is it going to taste bad if I spend that money? So that was a really sort of easy transition when you knew all the things that a customer might be going through. So like I said, 7-8 months later, we launched the brand. We launched a website that nobody came to, turned it on, waited, nobody came to it. We couldn't advertise or anything like this. But we launched into Selfridges and Planet Organic a month after. And then from there, it kind of exploded with a little lockdown blip when we kind of really pivoted online and started working with some of the only stores that were open, actually, like grocery stores, supermarkets, that kind of thing, because all the restaurants and bars where we thought, let's go build a brand in a sexy restaurant, they were all closed during COVID. Yeah.
So you used your CEO superpower almost in the first sentence, and it's quite a unique superpower, and it wasn't one that I was expecting from you, but it is storytelling. How have you used storytelling to build the Trip brand?
So when I say storytelling, I think for me, it feels like taking people on a journey. I think honestly, being vulnerable is another superpower for a lot of people. And having a personal experience that I'm able to share with people, I think CBD is really widely misunderstood. Luckily now, I think partly through the work that we've done, we've really brought it more mainstream and reduced some of that taboo. But working through misconceptions of the hemp plant, helping people feel empowered or confident enough to verbalize how they feel about their own emotional state or mental state is really important. So even if we're going to, whether it's a meeting with a Selfridges or a Sainsbury's, or we're speaking to our online community, understanding what everyone's going through in that relatability of, this is my experience, I wasn't doing so well, here's something I'm putting out there, I found has really resonated. And I think as well, I don't know about you, but after or during those lockdowns, it was so scary. We didn't know what was going on. Everyone was worried about the health of their family and friends, and everyone's mental state was definitely constantly being challenged. And I personally believe it was a time where even at work, you'd start to talk about how you were feeling in a way that you would never talk about that before. Myself, I joke that, even on family WhatsApp chats, you'd say, how's everyone doing? In a way that, that wasn't a topic of conversation. It'd be much different.
Particularly in the UK.
Definitely. And I think that moment, coupled with kind of some of the work we were doing to put our own story out there, allowed people maybe the confidence to have a conversation with themselves or with a loved one about how they were doing. And that's been a huge part of how we've built the brand. I mean, online community as an example, if you go on Trip socials, people take photos of the products every day and they put them on Instagram, tens, hundreds a week. and they tell us how they're feeling, and they tell us why they might have been feeling that way, or when they are thankful they managed to find a trip product and how they felt after. And it's really tuning into their storytelling as well as ours, and kind of having that openness, which I think has been a really important part of people understanding, yes, maybe this is for me, rather than, oh, it's for someone else. It's not for me. I'm not stressed, or I don't need that product. We're all in this together.
For me, the personal storytelling of the brand has built an authenticity around Trip and around you both as founders, and a trust in the brand. Like there is a true passion and a true connection to the product that really resonates in every element of what I see around the brand, whether it's an article in Forbes or Vogue, or whether it's the website or you personally representing the brand. You can feel that there's a personal passion for the product. Yeah. Which I think is, for me, where the storytelling really shines through. So how can the listener out there implement storytelling in their life or their business idea or their existing business?
I mean, even aside from business, as you were talking, I was thinking of even my husband, who's Lebanese Irish, and the fact that whether it's storytelling for me is not just listen to my story. It's how can you connect with someone? How can you empathize with kindness and sharing an element of vulnerability to create a safe space so people feel comfortable sharing their own experiences. So it's not so much of I'm the narrator and you're the listener. It's more a conversation and that intimacy. And I mentioned my husband because I remember when we first started dating, and he would speak to anyone and everyone, to the point I was like, we're late for dinner. Do you really need to be speaking to the guy on the door for this long? Or, asking the life story of the taxi driver or whatever. But it's this incredible openness that through being kind and asking a couple of questions or offering some information about yourself, you can really build connection, build relationships. So I think it's not just a business thing. For me, it's, having a couple of minutes, not even minutes, seconds chat with someone who's selling you something in a shop, or you're hopping in a cab, or just the openness to listen to someone else's experience and offer something of yours to help them open up. That for me is the key. It's the sort of storytelling and the ability to create space, connection, and kind of you realize that you're more alike to each other, essentially, and that breaks down barriers personally and in business. So I think what I've realized in business is not nobody. There's a lack of representation, whether it's females in the drinks industry and the food industry. My father's Chinese Indonesian, as an Asian female founder, that's never seen really many of those. And even without those sort of clear visual barriers, it might be that someone's just having a very different day to you, and you never know what's happened to them before you've entered this conversation. You really don't. And being able to use storytelling with empathy and kindness, I think, is a really big part of how we've built the brand, but how we've built the business. I'd never go into a meeting, or I'd never chase someone in business on, I'm still waiting for your reply, it's been 10 days, would you be so kind as to let me know? Nothing like that. It's like, I'm sure you've got loads going on. It's an incredibly busy time of year. Hope you're really well. If you might have time, do you know what I mean? That kind of much more empathetic approach, I think, threads through, whether it's meetings or business comms. I think for listeners and how they can approach that, just thinking about it in the everyday, if you enjoy the experience, it's not always natural to ask someone how they're doing, or to take a minute to not just jump into, everyone feels so time pressured, you want to just jump into the, right, let's get to it. But sort of giving yourself a chance, and whoever you're interacting with personally a chance to share what's brought them there and how their day's going. I think, especially with lockdowns, you didn't always have that on Zooms. That can be really powerful, and it will naturally start to thread through your business or your business experience. You wouldn't believe a simple question, and we do it a lot at Trip with our community of, we did a big advertising campaign where we didn't show the product, we just asked questions or had positive affirmations, like being kind to yourself is productive. How are you doing, really? How are you? Oh, hey, you. Just things to interrupt your day that you think, oh, gosh, how am I actually? And I think if you start to think about ways you can sort of prompt yourself or prompt others with that moment of reflection, it will thread through, whether it's your work or professional conversations you might be having, sort of humanizes us.
So the brand's only in its 6th year.
Fifth year. We had our 4th birthday, so that means
your fifth year,
yeah.
And you're already doing campaigns where you don't even include the brand logo or product, which is extraordinary because you've been referenced as kind of glossier of the wellness industry, and you really are. Like, you created such an incredible community, but you've also created a brand that transcends beverages, it transcends your product line. How have you done that in such a short time frame?
I don't know if I have an answer for that. It kind of, evolved so organically. Again, I think always coming back to the fact that it was a launch out of passion and personal experience. There was just no kind of wavering, no question, no marketing handbook or pitch deck from a beverage company to follow. It was just, where do people, real human people, where do they feel the need for stress relief? Or where do they feel the need for something a bit healthier to help them with their everyday? Something as simple as everyday. It's not sort of huge ambitions of only when you're in that fancy club and you're looking for a cocktail. No, it's as simple as walking down the street and how you're feeling, waiting for a train, that kind of thing. In terms of those kind of campaigns, I think another superpower I was thinking of when we had this conversation was naivety. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I had no idea that was maybe, not marketing 101 to not put the product out there. And we haven't done it again since, but you're building awareness. You're coming from such an innocent place where you just are so guided by the mission and the purpose that you don't get clouded by, I guess when you're bigger, there are new challenges or opportunities around, okay, but the marketing theory says this, so we should do X, Y, Z, and trying to kind of be open to that, but knowing that you want to sometimes just follow what organically happened in the early days.
You've built a hugely successful business in a very short period of time, and you have how many members of staff now? I think it was 60.
50, I think,
50 or 60 members of staff. There are so many pressures on you every day, particularly being a husband and wife duo. I know you have other members of the family in the business.
Yeah.
How do you keep what sounds like a beautiful culture? How do you keep that happening when every single day there's time pressures, there's financial pressures, you're pulled in a million different directions, you're a new mother. How do you realistically make that work?
I don't think it's easy for anyone of any size team in that kind of area. When you get past people, you get past whatever 5-10 people that can fit around a table, everything is kind of easy to do without having to say it in terms of culture, because you're sitting next to someone, you can feel how they're feeling, it's osmosis, right? You can feel the energy or the atmosphere, and it's easy to communicate because you speak and everyone around the table can hear at the same time. Whereas when you get larger, conversations happen in different spaces at different times, and sometimes it can be more of a challenge to, I guess, more proactively implement certain comms or cultural concepts. For us, it's always a work in progress. We would never sit here on our laurels and say we've got it perfectly right. We've committed to our team. We want to be the best place to work that they've ever worked, never will work, and them to have the trip stamp of pride however long they're with us. And I think for that, one of our key values at work is collaboration. So we've actually always invited people in the team to contribute, whether it's values or culture stuff or in the sort of business more widely. We say no question is a stupid question. This has never been done before. I hadn't done this before I did it. You hadn't done this. So even though I've hired you from a comparable industry, comparable company, and a comparable role, you have never sold CBD products to people that never knew what CBD was before. So we're all in this together. So let's be innovative, entrepreneurial. And I think collaboration is a huge part of that, whether it's the culture and the way that we work together. The juggle is real. I'm not going to say that I know exactly what to do, but you get inspired and guided by a lot of people you meet along the way. I guess the storytelling component as well, being vulnerable, either it's in this conversation or someone I might meet later, and I say, look, how have you done this? And tell me more. And I think you really do absorb through listening and learning.
I hope you're loving this week's episode. To find more inspirational resources and to shop our new product range, visit ceoyourself.com. We've had very vulnerable conversations offline, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we're new friends, and it's always felt so easy for me to be completely raw and completely honest with you. So I can only imagine what kind of boss you are. It leads me on to CBD. There are a lot of naysayers. It's very similar to the industry I've been working in supplements. You know, some people love them and hero them, and other people say that they're not everything that we make them out to be. How do you navigate that? Do you have a response to those that say that CBD is not what you think it is?
It's an interesting question. There's nothing I love more than a skeptic. I love to go into a pitch meeting or a meeting or a conversation and people say, oh, they're not necessarily 100% clear on the XYZ. I say, oh, well, let me tell you, I think that really motivates me, especially because speaking from personal experience of Daniel's experience and mine, there is no question to us. And obviously since our experience and learning about the science and learning about the theory and the medical side as well, which is very interesting, it is really fast evolving. So even the system which CBD works with in your body called the ECS. So CBD stands for cannabinoid. And you have a system in your body called the endocannabinoid. They sound the same. They talk to each other. The system recognizes CBD and processes it in your body anyway to help you get back in balance. So if you give your body more CBD, that system that regulates your mood, your sleep, your appetite, has more fuel to help you feel more balanced. So for us, I think it's breaking down confusion, so education, but not in a preachy way, in a sort of understandable way is really important. Any kind of trial or sampling, say just give it a go. I think we never also, it's always been a lifestyle brand. I never wanted it to be, it's one pill to fix your life and, you know, everything's going to change. It's a conversation. It's a moment to slow down. It's a moment to reflect. It's a choice you've made to take time out of your day to buy a product instead of the full sugar Coca-Cola or whatever. And that's important on a wider journey of just reflecting on how you're feeling. Because
that was going to be my next question. How long do you need to take CBD to truly feel the effects?
Wish I brought some today. So
I know we should be drinking it here.
So the beverage has 15 milligrams. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say, you know how some people have an espresso after dinner and then can go to bed, and some people will be up for hours. It really interacts personally with people. So it really depends on, your sort of sleep, what you've eaten. It's not like, larger people need more. It's not based on weight at all or your caffeine tolerance, for example. So the incredible thing, it is really personal and how it affects. So I would have a drink and feel it within 10 minutes. My husband needs 4. It also depends on the day of the week. So if I am running around busy doing a presentation or something and I have one, it immediately calms me. Whereas some people, it depends on the day of the week, what you might be doing. And we really encourage people actually on D2C as well to kind of reflect the day after, because it might not even be that you feel something super impactful in the moment. Socially, for example, if someone's having it instead of wine, instead of beer, we might say, oh, how did you feel the next day? And you might reflect and say, do you know what? I actually was a bit more present at dinner. And that family occasion was a bit more enjoyable. You're right. I was not worrying about the to-do list. And I did have the edge taken off. And I felt more confident in that social moment. And it's the reflection on the experience that I think is a really powerful way of showing how you felt. Not like, oh, I had Energizer Bunny effect after. So it's really personal. That's another beauty, I guess, of the storytelling thing that we were discussing, that we encourage people to feedback and say, how did you feel? Not just at the dinner, but how did you feel the next morning? Oh, you slept better. That's interesting. That's great. What else? And they'll sort of reel off experiences they've had, either data tracked, everyone's got Whoops and whatever else now, which is amazing to see in terms of sleep impact. Because CBD doesn't make you sleepy. It helps alleviate stress and anxiety, and that is often so problematic and why we can't fall asleep or stay asleep. So with the drinks, for me, 10 minutes after, we've got the drops, which is a stronger format. So you can get, we've got a 3,000 milligram where you can take a couple of drops under the tongue. So I have one on my bedside table every night. And that's the thing I reach for if I do wake up at night. And that is immediate for me. Again, within 10 minutes, I'm just soothed and not got those racing thoughts that can trouble you sometimes when you're trying to get to sleep.
What about the regulatory issues I'm sure you've had to overcome?
Yeah.
And I guess I read, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I did read that they'd outlawed CBD in Hong Kong, I think it was.
Hong Kong, yeah.
Yeah. Does that concern you at all? Is that a part of the reason why you're expanding globally? What is your kind of safety plan in terms of government regs?
So luckily I'm a lawyer, so I have a good handle on things. I think that has actually been a bit of a secret weapon as well, if I'm honest. Navigating what is an incredibly complex area has been very powerful in terms of understanding how we can strategically expand, but also how we can grow and build the business in a way that other people may have seen that's too challenging. I'm just not even going to bother going there. And I think that has required a lot of confidence within our team, and we truly believe in the product and we truly believe in the benefits of CBD. So while Hong Kong might be a not for right now, we're not ruling anywhere out. And I think being able to focus on markets where the regulation is a little bit more open has been very helpful as well, because you can sort of prioritize as well, as opposed to viewing the whole globe as a young business that's growing really quickly. Operationally, it's pretty challenging if you want, even if you weren't CBD, if you were going to Hong Kong with your brand, for example, when you were using supplements as an example, you probably have to update the formula, you have to update the packaging. So these are sort of standard challenges that I think any brand that's thinking of going international faces. For us, you can probably tell, huge believers, hugely passionate about making this mainstream. And what we've done in the UK, in the absence previously of regulation, we have partnered with, whether it's Selfridges, Sainsbury's, we've guided them through on sort of the science side, we've guided them through on the regulation side, such that we've created, in partnership with them, shelving space for these products that didn't exist. There was a lot of confusion. Is it an energy drink? Is it a water? Where do I put it? How do I merchandise it? I don't know what to do. And actually guiding people as a really important voice of reason, seeing the long-term potential of this. It's not, I'm here to, make a buck in the CBD gold rush. Not at all. For us, this only works as a category leader if we can continue to convince tens of millions of people of the benefit of this. And we'll continue to evolve, whether it's not Hong Kong right now, but it will be any format that you need to help you in a moment of stress. So where might that be? That might be your bedside table, having a beauty style product, hotel rooms when you're traveling. We're in a lot of airports and airlines. And I think continuing to evolve around where people need us and what our community needs from us is really important. And I guess luckily the legal background, none of that's sort of too frightening for me.
Amazing. What I think you've done so cleverly is you haven't just brought a CBD product to the market, you've brought a really delicious product to the market. I first found the brand long before I knew you in Daylesford, and it was the peach flavour, the orange can, and it looked so beautiful on the shelf. The branding was so aspirational. I picked it up just wanting to try it and didn't even think about the CBD element. I just wanted to try it, and it was so delicious that I just kept picking it up. Yeah. It obviously then had an impact on me where it did make me feel good. I'm one of those people where I'm in the category of I can have an espresso after dinner and I could probably have 4 trip drinks before I would feel any kind of buzz. But I did buy them for the team, and it was extraordinary to see how differently people reacted to the product. Really? What I think is so beautiful about what you've done though, and what is so clever, is that it is a lifestyle brand and it goes beyond CBD. You are inspirational to me for so many reasons, but let's talk for the audience around the realities of being a woman in business, being a new mum in business, working with your husband, working with your family, running a team of over 50 people, the chaos of the day. What is your number one piece of advice for a listener out there wanting to start a business? How do they approach having an idea, bringing it to fruition? Because I imagine you were still working as a lawyer when you were pursuing the research and R&D around launching a brand. You brought it to market very quickly. Yeah. What is your advice for someone out there wanting to start a business? They're passionate about something, they have an idea. How do they bring it to market?
It's really difficult because now that I have my kind of business hat on and I've gone through so much and we've grown so fast, it's hard to retain the pure naivety from which we began this journey, this beautiful journey. And the funny thing is, a lot of people find it hard to believe I never had an entrepreneurial bone in my body. I never planned on working with my husband. We've been together since I was 18 when we met at Cambridge University, and we never talked about work. We worked in different fields. I could probably barely, it sounds terrible as a wife, could probably barely tell you the names of his colleagues or what he would do in a day. It was just, we supported each other fully, but it wasn't something we talked about. So it was a complete surprise to me to be going on this entrepreneurial journey, not least with someone didn't even know what their working style was. So learning each other's kind of working love languages as well is something that has been really interesting. So I guess a big part of our journey has been the importance of family. We have family in the business, whether it's your chosen family or your real family, if you know what I mean. I think people around you that really believe in what you believe in, there are going to be really, really challenging times. People are going to tell you 9 times out of 10, it can't be done. There was nowhere in the UK to put CBD in a drink. So we had to literally go on Google, find all the producers that would do something small enough, because you don't have the capital at the beginning to make a big production run. So there's only a handful of people in the UK that can do smaller ones. So having to have that list of handful of co-packers, for example, and then approach them and pitch them and say, please, can you put CBD down your factory line? I promise it's not going to break your machine. I promise it's not illegal. And I promise it's not going to mess up the rest of your production day. These things, you have to have, I guess, a bit of an appetite for convincing or persuading. And I guess storytelling, again, comes in there, because we had to go and convince people of those things I just mentioned, as well as this is going to be the next biggest thing. So it's so worth you stopping your production to put our product down and get back to doing whatever, a bigger brand contract that they could have been doing. So the persuasion and the belief, I think personal passion around purpose, I couldn't have done this without that. I can't think of another business idea. I didn't approach it like a business idea. I approached it with my husband as something we felt compelled we had to do. So I don't know if I've got a lot of advice if you have a business idea, but if you have, your idea is based on either an experience you've had or kind of a gap that you felt resonated with you and sense checked around other people in your network, that's definitely a really important place to start. But you need to truly believe in it, because there's going to be a ton of doors that are closed pretty much in your face. And what I say is, if a door is closed, I sort of just shove a little foot in, open a window, just a nudge. If someone's saying, there's no way I could take this product, where the heck would it go on my shelf? What am I going to tell my customers? And say, oh, well, totally hear you, completely respect that. Maybe we could look at a 3-store trial for a couple of weeks, see how it goes, get some feedback and go from there, I think that kind of collaborative approach to convincing people is really important, because while the path of trip obviously looks like a huge spike up, there's all these wiggles where you're meandering around things. So having that confidence and resilience, I think, is important in the belief of your business idea.
It is that confidence and certainty that I feel so strongly in every word that you say.
It's hard to get that, though, if you don't let yourself lean into the vulnerability of it also. So I have a few founders that come to me for advice, and they might still be doing the juggle of side hustle, if we call it that. And I think the fact that we both we had each other. So that's another factor. I said, do you have, great friends and family or co-founders you can lean on? Because there are times when it's tough and you need to talk it out. And the person that understands the most is someone who's founded it with you, to be honest. And all our family had seen Dan's recovery story and seen how it affected our very sort of personal life. So that was really helpful, because if he was sort of saying, I'm sorry, I can't make that dinner, or I'm sorry, I can't be at that thing, I'm going to have to change the plan, everybody understood, everybody got it. And that, I think, is really helpful when you're going through that really fast growth and the meandering nature of entrepreneurship.
One of my favorite quotes is strength through vulnerability. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right. There's a lot of high pressure moments. Another quote that I quite like is one of our investors. I think it must have been a lockdown or something when the world was going a bit funny. And he said, pressure makes diamonds. And another quote I've heard from someone at work, actually, which I found interesting, is pressure is a privilege. I thought that was an interesting one. Obviously, you've got to caveat with a bit of burnout and things like that are really, really dangerous. But understanding that, there's a lot of strength to be had in working through challenging situations, and ultimately having the perspective and openness to recognize, okay, that was tough, didn't go quite how we planned. How do we find a solution? How do we come back at it? And you mentioned around, being a working mother and working with family. And I think it's a funny time to have kind of reflected on, like, I know you've got a young child as well. And I think Leo, our first child, 4.5 months, and I've already learned so much. You're kind of reminded of these things that you knew deep down. But I think when you're running around, not just in a fast growth business, running around with your daily life, you can forget really simple lessons like being overtired is a thing, being overstimulated is a thing. A baby needs calm, wind down time, rest. You can't sleep well if you don't have a wind down routine. I don't know about Xanthi, but that calm, low lights, bath before bed, it makes sense. The importance of play. They play to develop their brains, which is crazy. We should play more. That creative moment and creative break that you get from the grind is equally important for some people.
So let's summarize for the listener how they can implement storytelling in their lives, wherever they are, whatever path they're on. What would be your 3 kind of top tips?
When you're storytelling, don't forget to listen. It's not a one-way conversation or a one-way narrative. People can only truly feel included and vulnerable if you're sharing. I think sharing and storytelling is a big word, I guess I'd say. Listening and sharing, I'm going to call those two. Make sure you're listening, but if you share some of your experience, you would be amazed what you can get back. I guess the third one is kindness. So when I'm using the word storytelling, I hope it's not too one size fits all, but what's really important is you're humanizing the experience. And I find kindness is a big way of sharing and listening. I think that's an important factor. It's not just, does everybody know the story of XYZ? Want to make sure everyone's heard it and knows it inside out. That's not what I mean. I mean, sharing part of yourself, truly listening to the other person in the conversation and sharing a moment of kindness with them so that you can both connect in a way that can be really enhancing for personal relationships, meeting strangers, or even professional ones.
And what's next for Trip? What's next for you? What is your view for the next kind of 5 years?
Wow, 5 years. That is like
12 months, 24.
Yeah. So about the time this is coming out, we have our first TV campaign going live. So that's a really big deal. I don't know if you've done TV in any of your work, but a huge moment for the company to come together around something so visual. It's a huge moment for a lot of our retail partners, even our community who sees us, in meal deals and on menus. To see us on TV, I think is a huge moment in terms of this is mainstream. We have created a category. People believe in the benefit of this, and being able to get on TV after, we were shooed out of shops and restaurants in the early days is something that I'm super excited to share with the team.
Amazing. And what is your legacy piece of advice? How you want to be remembered?
By
anyone and everyone.
Oh my gosh.
I always close with this question.
That's an amazing question. Feeling a bit misty-eyed. I hope people remember me fondly. And yeah, I don't take things too seriously. I think there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people, but really understanding each person's journey is important. And you never know what's going on with someone. And I think whether it's kindness or empathy or openness, I really hope people always think, I could always ask her, or she would listen.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Where can people find you, and where can they find Trip Drinks?
So Trip Drinks is hopefully pretty much everywhere, not too far from wherever you are, listener. Stores, supermarkets, the Ocados, the Waitrose, our direct-to-consumer site's a big part of the Trip business and Trip community. So Instagram, TikTok, trip.drinks. If anyone has any questions for me, I'm on Instagram, olivia.ferdi, and always, inbox is always open. I love hearing people's stories and connecting with people and understanding that we're all just figuring it out as we go. There's so much, I think, beauty in that. People don't talk about it enough.
Such beautiful, eloquent words from you. I can't wait to share your story with our audience. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It would mean the world to me if you would share today's episode with someone you feel would enjoy it. And don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and leave a comment.